I
So,
see her.
anywho, welcome to YouTube.
What's the best way to get into software engineering? Is it to be self-taught? Is it to go through formal education like college or university? Or is it to go look into a boot camp? Hi, my name's Nick Cosentino, and I'm a principal software engineering manager at Microsoft. In this video, I was joined by Brooke Sweedar, where I did an interview with her to learn about her journey through her software engineering bootcamp. Now, I have a pretty traditional software engineering journey. I knew that I wanted to do it from an early age. I went to university for it, and then I went into the workforce. With Brooke, her story's a little bit different, and it's really cool for me to be able to hear about her success with her software engineering bootcamp. As a result, I think it's going to be very valuable for you to hear about her experiences going through this as well. A quick reminder that if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment below if you want to see more content like this. Thanks, sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, great. So I'm 28 years old, and I did go to college right out of high school. I majored in marketing management, and I actually didn't finish my degree. I was working towards an associate's, and I ended up joining a recruiting firm. That was my start. I've been with them ever since, and I was just good at it. I learned a lot of business skills. It was very valuable, and I've totally enjoyed my journey. But I always kind of felt like, it was a stable job. And like I said, I enjoyed it. There really were no major downsides to it, but it just never felt like a true passion for me.
Interesting. So you had a skill at it, but it wasn't a passion of yours.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And I'm thankful that that was the case. I'd rather that than suck at it, right? And
Yeah.
just be like, oh no. So super thankful for the past 10 years of experience that I've had with that. But I always just kind of had in the back of my mind, like, I want to end up doing something else. I just didn't know what. And I've always loved technology. I'm a huge gamer. So for a while, I mentioned to you earlier, like maybe I'll do a gaming YouTube channel. And I did not enjoy that process. That was another learning lesson for me, but I'm glad I tried it. That there are so many things out there you just aren't going to know until
Right.
you dip your toe in the water, so to speak. But actually, I started dabbling in code because I was also in charge of doing the marketing campaigns for our recruiting firm. And so I decided to just teach myself some HTML and CSS to just make our letters look a little nicer and on different devices and stuff like that. And I fell in love. I was like, this is amazing, because up until then I had no experience with coding.
Right.
Never took any courses in it. I never had anyone in my life that worked in tech, so I truly just wasn't exposed to any of it at all. And I just found myself spending a lot of my free time continuing to dabble with learning some front end stuff and some UX things and trying to implement that into how we do things in our firm. And it was awesome, but I found myself being like, this is really how I want to spend my time.
Interesting. But
This is
and I
something
should
that
ask too, like this, I'm assuming this was never something that you thought growing up or going into college or anything. Like you never thought you were gonna do code, right? Is that fair to say?
right. Never,
Okay.
never. Like as a kid, for years, I wanted to be a chef, and then I mean, I don't know. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll major in something with business, because I just knew that I wanted to end up with a career that, I would hopefully make good money. Have stability is very important to me.
Right.
And then the recruiting opportunity, I sort of just fell into it, and I was working part-time while I was in school. And then I really fell into the role and just stuck with it. And it wasn't until towards the end of last year, I was like, you know what? I really love this stuff. Like, I really
Yeah.
love this coding. I'm starting to do these little projects. And I just think, if I don't take the plunge to make a change, when is that going to happen? Because no one else is going to do it for me. I have to do it myself.
Right. Yeah, and it's so I should ask too, like you mentioned that the coding part started coming up in your role when you're looking at some marketing material and trying to I think this is actually the case for a lot of people where they're starting in very front end things, HTML, CSS, and like what did you think that was or maybe was it more like a forced upon you thing where you're like, the thing that we're dealing with sucks so bad I have to do something about this? Or was it more of like what was the thing that kind of caused it to happen? Like just very curious or kind of needed to happen?
Right. Well, we were trying to drive new business and to try and get new clients. So I've worked in the manufacturing space, specifically in recruiting. So again, nothing to do with tech. Like I had no insights into that side of the world at all. Anywho, so but we have this recruiting software that we use, and you can in it you can create form letters, and it's pretty intuitive and like generating templates for you to a point.
Okay.
And so funny enough, I didn't know what these were, but those little arrow brackets, there was a little symbol for that in the software, and I clicked on it one day and it opened up all the HTML, like the skeleton, and I did not know what that was. I don't even know what made me click on it. I think I was just like, what is this? And I
Right.
saw it and I was like, wow. Like I found myself just scrolling, and it was like I know now how messy it was, but I'm just
Sure.
it was
Yeah.
just jumbled together. It wasn't pretty or formatted at all. But I thought it was just fascinating, and I just reading through it realized, the little things like font size, and then it had like the content of our letters that we were sending out. I was like, this is what's making it look the way that it is. And so um I then I saw like the HTML tags, and I Googled that and I was like, what is this? And that's truly just what led me. It was curiosity driven by me trying to improve it. And then I was like, well, if I can, make these margins a little bit or match our exact logo color versus just like the auto select of the six color
Sure.
options that exist typically, I was like, I
It's
really want to
blue
just
enough. Yeah.
exactly like build our brand a little bit better. So that was literally my entry into HTML, and it's just grown from there.
That's super cool. No, I like hearing that because like I was mentioning to you that like my path has been kind of like I don't know when it was, but I was young enough where I was like I think honestly it was probably video game related if I
Mhm.
think back far enough. I can remember before coding for me it was like I don't know, as a kid I was like I'm playing video games and I'm like I want the cheat codes and stuff and I would go on the computer and I would try to see if I could once I discovered that like how like game files might be organized, I'm like I'm going to go see if I can change some values in the game files and like so it wasn't coding necessarily, but I was changing configs and kind of poking around. And that kind of curiosity for me eventually led to the point where it was like, I remember my father bringing in like, and he wasn't a programmer, but brought in like these massive books that were like, C++ or C programming for like Doom, like that old video game. And I was like, I remember seeing it being like, that's really cool, but like, I'm not going to read that. Like, it's almost like it's not the interest. The interest isn't reading. I just want to kind of be curious and poke around because I didn't know what writing code was at that point. So yeah, started as a curious thing for me, but then it was like I'm like I want to do this and everything else after that. So still like, before going into high school, I was like I know I want to write code, so what path do I have to go on? So I love hearing when people kind of discover this later where they're like I didn't think that I would and then I started looking and it was like heck yeah, like this is the thing for me. So that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Nick. And talking about discovery, like I said, this has happened to me at a later age relative to my life, right? And I definitely, when I was considering really making a switch and being like, okay, I think I want to do this for a living, I definitely faced some, oh, I'm too old for this. I know 28 is not old, but still, I just think that there's this
Right.
sometimes inherent pressure. You hear about these tech whiz genius teenagers who are doing all this stuff, and that's awesome, like good for them. I'm so glad that they exist, but it can be a little bit intimidating too.
Right.
And for me, because I did consider like, okay, so then should I go back to school, should I like pursue a computer science degree? And I did really take some time to consider that. But I'll be honest with you, I really don't like school that much. I graduated high school early. I did well in school, but I literally did 2 years of high school and my freshman year of college all in 1 year, just because I was like, I want to get school out of the way. Like I
Right.
want to go out into the real world and get something done. So then the thought of me going back for a degree it was just, I didn't want to. That's really the long and short of it. It just didn't appeal to me. I did look into it. I looked up schools, and so then I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to do that, what are my other options? And
Right.
I did sign up for Code Academy for 1 year. This is before I signed up for my boot camp, and it was great. I really like their software. I think it's very intuitive with checking to see why your code is wrong and guiding you through. So I would
Cool.
recommend them personally. Um, but I just found, I'm also a perfectionist. I'm very type A, I'm very organized, and I know that I struggle with analysis paralysis.
Sure. Yeah.
And I found myself like if I was getting stuck on a concept, I was not moving forward. Like was not doing a good job of pushing past it. Just will get, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to understand every single little moving part, but because I didn't have any real deadlines or accountability, I found myself just stopping, and then I'd be like, okay, a month later I'll pick it back up. And that was frustrating because I was like, I want to get there, but I'm not doing a very good job
Right.
on my own. So
Yeah,
that was
this what's the right word for that? It's like it's not commitment, it's like when you need that feedback loop for someone to kind of keep pushing you along. Otherwise, you have to do it. You're like, it's like a motivation commitment thing. I can't think of the word.
accountability.
Accountability. Thank you. It's just my
Yeah,
brain's not working. But
it's
yeah, like
okay.
you need to have accountability to it. And a lot of the time, I'll share an example, right? So outside of software engineering, like I have been really into bodybuilding for a long time, and so I've been going to the gym literally as long as I've been programming. So it's kind of funny. It's like a equal length of my life doing that, and I found that, like I know how to go work out, I understand nutrition, but I would still hire a coach because I was like, it's not necessarily they're going to tell me something so groundbreaking that I've never thought of before, but it was really an accountability thing. So, of course, there was advice and things that were helpful without a doubt, but I was literally paying, like, for me, the value was accountability because if I get too comfortable just because it's a hobby, I can kind of blow off some steam. I'm like, am I gonna, go more and more years of being like, did I really make the progress I wanted to? Or like, could I have had some accountability to push me? And for me, it was like, if I hire a coach, that's going to be the thing that gives me that. So for you, was it like, I need to switch gears here because the accountability is not where you want it?
And so, yes, I was completing a few programs. Like I said, I'd get stuck and then I'd be like, okay, well, then I'll just get back to it. And then I was pushing things off. And then I was frustrated too because in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I want to work towards making a career switch.
Right.
And this, for me, because I know people just all have different experiences, but it just wasn't enough. And so I was like, okay, so again, do I go back to school or do I look into a boot camp? And so I really spent about 2 months doing my research. I made spreadsheets, everything from, again, type A.
I was just
Going
going to say, yeah, that sounds.
Yep. But analyzing everything from cost, time, and just resources. Obviously, I did a lot of research on people's reviews and like alumni. Like, did they get jobs afterwards? I mean, it's great if you learn, but if I want to get hired. That's my
Right.
ultimate goal after finishing my boot camp is to be a software engineer. And it's great to sit here and build these projects myself, but I would like to get paid for them at some point. And so I ended up choosing, just to preface, the boot camp I'm currently enrolled in is partnered with Louisiana State University, and
Cool.
I do live in Louisiana, but they're partnered with a company called Full Stack Academy. So they sort of, I don't want to say outsource because it is under the LSU umbrella, but Full Stack sort of takes care of the boot camp aspect. They provide their own
Mm.
instructors, their own curriculum, their own resources, and they are partnered with several universities all over the United States. So I figured I might as well just choose LSU because I live here, right? So support local, so to speak. And I really liked it too because I wanted the not label, but reputability of having an actual university slapped on that. There are all kinds of boot camps out there, and I'm sure some of them are phenomenal. But for me, I was like, if I'm going to invest the time and money, I felt, again, as a recruiter too, it might look a little bit better if it had Louisiana State University on here versus XYZ, who's heard of that boot camp. Again,
Right.
not discrediting them, but that was part of why I chose the one that I chose.
Right.
And so, I knew I wasn't just going to quit my job. I still need to make money. So my boss is amazing and totally understands that I'm going through a change and is very, very supportive. So I'm still working full time right now. I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. And I'm not going to be looking for a job until I do graduate. And so I chose a 6-month part-time program. And
Okay.
for this, that looks, and it's full stack development, by the way. And so for that, it's 3 evenings a week, 3.5 hours long each lecture. And, I have homework, of course, outside of that, projects. And it's been a lot to manage time management wise. I have had to get really, really good at time blocking for myself. Otherwise I'll fall behind, you know. It's a lot to keep up with. I have other responsibilities too. I have other things going on in my life. But so far, I'm 2/3 of the way through. I have 2 months left. It has been totally worth it, in my
That's awesome.
opinion. I feel so good about the boot camp that I chose. I will say a couple of factors. First of all, Full Stack Academy does offer a 1 year long career support program after you graduate, and you also
Oh,
have
cool.
access to it during too. So I've already met with 3 different career coaches that work for Full Stack, people who offer classes, and they very individualistic. It's so hands on, and I feel like valued, if that makes sense. Like I'm not just some person that paid for something. Like I've had people sit down and go through my resume and talk about how to build up my LinkedIn network, how to connect with others, how to map out what kind of companies I might want to look for, projects that I should look into putting in my portfolio. Like they've gone really into detail, and this is just outside of my curriculum. So
Right. That's really cool. And I mentioned to you before we like actually started recording here together that for me, my journey has been different. And one of the sort of side effects, obviously there's bias on my end, but something I've noticed when it comes to boot camps is like, I think the word I shared with you is like a lot of them feel like predatory. And
right.
I also don't think that like every boot camp is evil or something like that. But the way that I kind of think about this is like if you think about as businesses, right? So even if they have a very good goal of helping educate, when it comes to being a business and marketing what your business is, you're in a position where you're like, okay, if there's other people doing this, what is our advantage? Why do we stand out? What makes us different? And some things that you can really lean into as a boot camp would be like, well, we can do it faster. We can
Mm-hmm.
do it cheaper. We can do like whatever you will be better. You'll be an expert by the time you leave. And when you end up like kind of doing this over and over, like competing as boot camps, you end up having what I consider like very false promises. Like, in 2 weeks, you'll be an expert in whatever language. And it's like, look, like, it's just not true. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that all boot camps are bad. It's just that there's so many that kind of feel predatory in this regard. So I'm super happy that you found something where you're like, this is a good fit. You're
Mm-hmm.
going through it and you're like, I feel valued, because I think that would be, in my opinion, one of the first red flags. If you get into it, you're like, okay, I paid for this, I'm getting into it. And then you're like, I don't know, like there's literally no communication support. You're kind of like, am I just one of the million people who got duped into this or something?
Every morning, and I'm so thankful, like that I just chose the one that I chose. And one thing too, I have great teachers. They did such a good job of hiring these guys. I've got 2 teachers, and one is in charge of going through the lectures, um, and then the other one, he's very supplementary. He's also present during the lectures, but he takes lab time. And both of them are so good about, if any of us have questions, and message them and, hey, I'm just stuck on this. Like they'll hop on a call, of course, within reason. They have other things going on too, but
Sure,
they
yeah.
are both so good at encouraging us to collaborate with each other as classmates, but then also helping us truly understand. Like they want us to succeed. At least, again, the 2 teachers I have very much come across that way. And I have a really good cohort too. It's about, I will say, it started off closer to 30 when I first started, and now we're down to a little less than 20. I was kind of surprised, but I don't know. That's just people's journeys. They realize it's not for them. I'm sure that's typical. So now we're down to 20, but we've grown really close, and I can message any of them if I have
Awesome.
questions. And we oftentimes on our off nights, so called, we'll just join a Zoom call and hash through things together. So I think that also has been very helpful. The curriculum has been great. Um, and the assignments have been really good too. I think very well paced. It is a lot of information,
Sure.
especially coming into it, just not knowing what any of this is for the most part, past the HTML and CSS point. I was really confident the first 2 weeks. I was like, this is easy. And now I'm like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
there's a bit more work, but it's just been a very pleasant experience overall.
Well, that's awesome. There's a handful of different things I kind of want to dive into, and I don't know exactly which direction to go in. But one of them that comes to mind is like the fact that you're able to kind of not even just able to, but the fact that you are kind of collaborating and communicating with the other people in the group. So to the reason why I kind of want to touch on this is like as when I'm trying to help people get into software engineering, they're asking for advice and stuff. And I will say this on my YouTube channel all the time and things I write. Like, yes, the technical skills are like a mandatory thing. You have to invest the time into them. It's kind of it's just a required thing in software engineering and lots of other technical roles too. But I think something that gets missed is that like there's this huge missed opportunity for like your softer skills, like truly being able to communicate, collaborate. So I can imagine people going through their software engineering journey, like even for me in school, like yeah, we had some projects, but it was kind of like until upper year when I actually had some friends in the class, I was like, I don't want to talk with people, like just let me go code. But having experience working through problems with other people, debugging code, sharing thoughts, I think it's so cool that you have that opportunity in your boot camp. Can you share some of your experience about whether you've noticed that being very helpful, or do you feel like you're always asking others for help? Are you providing help? Like, what's that dynamic look like for you?
That's a good question, Nick. One thing I think has helped an organic environment of collaboration, I think, is because first of all, because I chose the part-time so-called in the evenings after work. Most other people in my cohort, pretty much all of them, also have other jobs. They're career switchers. Like most of them, I say older, they aren't 18. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? Fresh out of high school kind of thing. It's 20s up to probably 50, and that's a guess. Um, that's an
It's gonna be
estimation, but
someone who's
we're
offended by that now, I bet. No.
sorry. I didn't name any names, so it's
Yeah.
okay, right? But anywho, so it's been great because I feel like we're all in the same boat, so to
Right.
speak. Most of us are coming into this without a tech background. I know people who, a couple of guys, work in a warehouse. One has been one woman has been a school teacher for years, and she just wants to make a change. And then there's me, as a recruiter. So we are really all in this together. And I think that from the get go also to, because it's not a huge group on a call to like versus 100 plus
Sure.
people, like the lectures are conversational. Of course we have to stick to the structure. It is mostly just my one teacher talking through, but like if we have questions, I think it's just like I said, organically an environment where someone feels like they can speak up and be like, I just don't know what we're doing right now, or
Right.
can you go through that again, because I just totally missed that. And even during the lectures too, because we try and follow along on our on our IDEs as our teacher goes through like a demo, right, to showcase a new concept. Most of us try and do that. And so pretend I'm loading something and it's not rendering on my browser correctly. Like I'll speak up and say, I don't know why this is. And oftentimes I'll share my screen. And normally it is one of the other students that's like, Brooke, you forgot to, do a closing tag here. And I'm like, cool. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. I think again, just the whole sense of we're in this together, not viewing each other as competition, but rather just people who are deciding to make a change, and enter this field. And we're just in it to learn. So it's been awesome.
That is awesome. I love to hear that. It's yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's kind of rare that people get some of that exposure to be able to truly collaborate. And something else that I think is kind of interesting that so for me, I don't know, I've been in industry if I include my like 6 internships, it's been like 12, no, 14 years. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been in industry for 14 years, but only until very recently with COVID and everything, like, and everything kind of moving more remote. Like, I've always been in person. I've been a manager for 12 years now. Like, that's been the 8 years of that were in person. It's only since coming to Microsoft kind of during COVID that everything mostly went remote. And for you kind of getting your start into this and it's all remote, like I think this is and I'm sorry, I'm assuming based on how you're describing it is all remote, right?
It is. Yeah, it's all online. It's
Cool.
all remote.
Yeah, so you're kind of getting into it like when it's all remote. And I know that there's going to be jobs still in person, there's hybrid, there's everything, right? But um I've noticed personally, like, how I work, my working style, like, needs to change with being remote versus in the office. I think tons of people are going through life changes where they're like, how am I supposed to work? Still figuring it out. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have thoughts about like your remoteness in work and how that's either helping or hindering, or I don't know if you have those thoughts yet.
Absolutely. So, I'm a bit spoiled because even whenever I started working for this recruiting firm, almost 11 years ago now, I've been remote the whole time. Like
Oh
that
wow,
was,
okay.
and I love it. Like I'm not gonna lie, I am such a homebody. Oh my gosh, I do love social interaction, but I am an introvert. Like my social battery definitely needs time to recharge. That everybody's different, so I'm fine being home. Like I'm like this is fantastic. I've got my two cats, and I can just hang out and have my own little schedule. So that was also a part of my decision into entering this field. And as you said, of course, there are always going to be in person or hybrid
Sure.
opportunities, but for me, my goal is to continue to work remote. That's definitely what I'm shooting for. So I know that for some other people, even some of my classmates too, who are coming from a lot of them from like retail or like I said, teaching in the public sector or all these industries or warehouse working, like it's new for them to
Right.
be home, to even be, not face to face with people. So I think that there's less of a obstacle for me, just because I'm so acclimated to it, and it probably is a much bigger shift for some of these other people, but it's been great for me.
Well,
So
that's very helpful, valuable information to know. And I guess you were kind of touching on it, but and I know it's not really, you can't just assume things about the people that you're working with, but in the interactions you're having, do you find that some of those people, and you don't have to like say specifically, obviously, it's up to
sure.
you to comment on this, but do you notice that maybe some of the people that have not ever been remote based on their jobs, do you find that like there are challenges where they're trying to communicate different things, like whether it's debugging or software or code, like I don't want to say they're struggling with it, but it's more challenging?
Mhm. I'm so sorry, my cat's meowing in the
Oh, that's
background.
okay.
I'm like, shut
I could
up.
only hear like a little brief meow. That's totally cool. We have three dogs here. I have soundproofing on like everything I possibly can. But yeah, we have a giant 130-pound Alaskan Malamute and two smaller fluffy dogs. So it's a whole wolf pack here. But yeah, animals are welcome. I'm not editing this, by the way. I'm keeping that in because I want to have the cat meowing.
Yeah, that's my cat's cameo. Anywho, back to your question.
I
So,
see her.
anywho, welcome to YouTube. But no, so I'm sure it has been quite a transition for them. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to best answer your question.
And
I will
I'm
say
not getting it like, yeah, like Joe is really crappy at talking to people. I'm just curious if you
no.
see like, do people have to try and explain things different ways, or like you can kind of tell that people are like, hey, this is unnatural, or based on maybe the boot camp, like it just really enables them to kind of succeed at it.
Right, right. So I will say there are a couple of students who generally are a bit more hands off. Like they don't often join our extracurricular calls. Not that they have to, because it's
Sure,
just
yeah.
us being like, hey, I've got some free time. It's Monday evening. I'm still working on the Puppy Bowl project. That's one we did recently. And, if anyone wants to hop on, let's work together. And they don't, but that's okay. Can you? Oh my gosh, it's playtime over here. But so I do think it still allows people to have their own speed and be as either hands on or hands off as they want, which I think is great. Like,
Right.
because you can join, at least in this situation, like you can just attend the lectures, get your homework done, like submit your assignments, and you'll pass and you'll graduate, and that's okay. But I will say I do think that the conversations I have had, especially in those extracurricular calls, have been so valuable. Like one thing I've really been stressing so heavily to my cohort has been the significance of networking. And
Okay.
even as a recruiter, I've had a LinkedIn for years because recruiter, but
Yep.
I really never spent time on sort of building a strong online presence or personal brand until I signed up for this boot camp. And that was actually part of my whole accountability game plan that I set for myself. I was like, I'm going to join a boot camp. So that way I'll have deadlines. You know, I've spent all this money. I'm not going to waste it. Right. I'm going to finish through and learn the curriculum. And if I get stuck, I've just got to figure it out. And first thing I did too, I also ordered 200 business cards from Vistaprint with my GitHub profile name and my title as software engineer. Like I was like, we're planting these seeds. This is happening. And I was like, I'm going to focus on building my network, connecting with some of the top people in this space, mainly to honestly just try and learn as much as possible, because I was coming into this as a stranger, no previous experience, no up until now connections with other people in this field. And I was like, I want to take advantage of that and every single possibility. And I'm so glad I did, Nick. Like, of course, you and I connected through LinkedIn, and shout out to Ryan Talbert, by the way, for inviting me to join a couple of groups and just meet other people and be introduced to both other bootcamp students or, you know, seasoned developers like yourself who took the traditional route. And it has been amazing. Like, I was a bit intimidated at first, you know, because again, all very new for me. And I was like, I got to put myself out there. But it's been awesome. And I've just really been trying to encourage my classmates to do the same thing. Just send people that you want to connect with an invite, like send them a message just saying, hey, listen, I'm a boot camp student. I'm entering this field. I'm just trying to build my network and learn from others. And that really is the truth. It's just wanting to get to know people and how your processes work. And the kind responses that I've gotten have been unbelievable. Like, I'm so thankful, Nick, truly. Like, I've had people just be like, hey, you know, if you ever get stuck on like your boot camp homework or anything else, like, I'll hop on a call with you, or, you know, you can reach out to me, or when you do decide to enter the job market, like, let me know. I know I've got some connections, and I'm so thankful. Like, it's so encouraging and exciting, and it's made me feel a lot more confident about choosing this path. And I don't know that I would necessarily feel that way if I hadn't also been doing all this other stuff besides my boot camp.
Well, thank you for kind of calling that out, right? I think it's, you know, I try as much as possible when I'm sharing my experiences to be like, oh, I might have a particular bias here, or there might be another piece of information like it's worth including. So in your case, you know, we're talking about the boot camp, you're talking about your ability to be able to go network, the value of that. Like, those are not necessarily the same thing. It's not like the boot camp said, hey, go do this. This is what we're teaching you. But you're tackling different facets of being able to go get into software engineering. And I think that's really important. I had an interview with Anna Miller. Oh gosh, it's got to be a few weeks back now. And we talked about personal branding as software engineers. And part of that was networking. And I loved your example that you gave, because I will give you a counterexample of some type of networking I don't think works well. So,
Okay.
And this is pretty common on LinkedIn. It's probably largely, for me at least, due to the fact that it says like I work at Microsoft right in my profile. But one of the things that happens is that people don't, in my opinion, like, they don't network effectively. They will basically message me and say, can you refer me to Microsoft? Like, that's the message. Can you refer me to Microsoft? And
Right.
I'm not trying to poke fun at this, like I'm almighty being at Microsoft, like, and I want to recognize that obviously, like, job market and stuff is very challenging right now. But the reason this isn't effective is, like, I mean, there's many reasons, but one of them in particular is like, by starting, can you give me a referral? Like,
Right.
I do not know you. And that's not to say that you might be the most amazing person in the world, but if I don't know you, a referral attaches my name to you. And
Yes.
it's a really uncomfortable situation to be like, yes, stranger that I've never said a word to before,
Right.
I will refer you, right? And even if they're like, can you look at all my stuff and then refer me? I'm like, no, because again, if I haven't worked with you, it's really difficult to do that. But something that Anna, like, I guess I'm very introverted. I kind of struggle with outreach, getting to meet people. Since doing content creation, that's been something I've been trying to get more comfortable with, because truly, like, you know, I can reflect on times I've been in an elevator and been like, don't look at people, like, you don't, like, I don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of my yeah, trying to get out of my comfort zone a bit. And I'm like, it's online, it's whatever, it's not so bad. I can message people. But one thing that Anna said that I really liked makes a lot of sense. And I think when I reflect on times where it's been not super awkward, where I have reached out to people, it's that I'm not asking them for something.
Right.
I'm not going, hey, like, I'm reaching out to you because I need to use you for something, right? Like,
Yes.
because to me, I basically talk myself out of it. I feel gross. I'm like, I don't, they're gonna know. They're gonna know that I'm using them, and I'm like, it's just bad. I don't like it. But
Yeah.
if you genuinely reach out, like if someone messaged me and they said exactly what you said, hey, I'm a boot camp student. I'm just hoping to kind of learn, connect with other people in the industry. I don't know what it is about that. The fact that you're not like, I need this of you, instantly I feel like I would be happy to help you. I
Hmm.
don't know how, but I would be happy to help. It's very, thank you for connecting. But as soon as it's, I need this out of you, I know I feel gross when I do it. And I also feel gross when people do it to me. So
Sure.
just wanted to kind of share that on the networking side.
No, that's a really good insight and really good advice too. Yeah, don't do that. Anyone watching, don't do it that way. And I really did not understand how powerful
Mhm.
effective networking would be until I started doing it. And like for anyone watching, if you haven't, please start. It might be uncomfortable. You might feel awkward. You might even feel like, what business do I have? And I had
Right.
those moments too, like, who am I, right? Nobody, as far as, I'm a wonderful person, but it's like I'm new in this field and I'm a student and I don't have, I didn't invent the latest whatever yet. But
That's
and
right.
so
Yes. I love that. Yet.
thank you. That's why I've got those business cards. It's gonna happen. So, um, but just like you said, asking to just reach out, build your network, and truly taking on the mindset of, I'm here to learn and
Right.
I'm entering this space from the outside. I would love to connect people with people who are on the inside because you guys have been there, done that, and I want to implement those same practices. And there's no better way than to connect with people who are in that space. And if you don't mind, I want to go into a little story
Let's
about
do it. Yeah.
one of the coolest things that has come from me doing exactly that, just sending out messages, hey, I'm a student. So part of my networking plan, and I do think you should have a plan, was to start local. So I'm here in Louisiana, and I actually just moved here a couple of years ago. Again, I work from home, so I don't know a lot of people here outside of family, which is fine. But I was like, okay, well, there has to be a tech scene here. So, LinkedIn has search filters. I literally just did software engineer, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And as I kind of, I don't want to say ran out of connections around here, I expanded to like New Orleans, which is about an hour away. And I would, take a look at people's profiles who, again, worked in this industry and had some experience and produced content that I was interested in engaging with. And, I would send them those connection messages. And I did send, his name is Rob Godet, and I did send him a message. He was actually like Louisianan of the Year a few years back, and founder of Cajun Navy Ground Force. That preface, they have since changed their name to just Ground Force Humanitarian Aid. I just want to put that out there for branding. But he's the founder, CEO. He's a coder at heart, but he used his technology skills to develop software and basically this entire company that provides disaster relief support.
Oh,
And
cool.
so, yeah, it is. And so here's the thing. I lived in Pittsburgh for most of my life, and, we'd have snow and ice and some weather, but I did not know what natural disasters were until I moved to Louisiana. Because right after I moved here, I experienced my first Hurricane
Mm.
Ida. And thankfully, I was fine. My home was fine. Everyone was safe, but like we didn't have power for over a week and a half. It was very scary for me. And there are a lot of people who are older, compromised, in poverty stricken areas all over the US, but especially along the Gulf Coast. And when these disasters happen, I mean, their livelihoods and their actual lives are absolutely at stake. And the thing is, also when this happens, technology goes down, the internet goes down, your cell
Mhm.
phone doesn't work. What happens if you're stranded and you need help? You need rescuing, from your flooding home or fill in the blank, right? And so I just came across his profile, and I was so fascinated and really inspired by what he chose to build. Like, I was like, what an incredible use of software engineering,
Yeah.
right? Like, to do something that's making this kind of impact. So it's a very well established company, and people down here, they've heard of it, which again, I hadn't, because I'm not from here. But then as I've talked to others, they're like, oh yeah, Cajun Navy, now known as Ground Force. But they've been around for years. You know, they're the tornado struck in Oklahoma. They're there. They've got a team with boots on the ground. They have all this stuff set up. Um, the point is that I ended up sending Rob a connection message. Same thing, just saying, I'm a boot camp student. I'm also new to Baton Rouge. I'm just trying to connect with other professionals in this field. And he messages me back and asks me all about my boot camp experience. You know, what's it like? What got you into tech? And then he asked me if I want to meet for coffee. And I was like, yeah, I would love to meet
There
for
you
coffee.
go.
That
Yeah.
would be amazing. And so I ended up, I'm again type A. I'm such a nerd, Nick, but I typed out a list of questions on a Word document, and I printed it out because again, I was like, I have this opportunity to sit down and have this man's undivided attention. And I think that that's very valuable. Like, I had questions about, like, how did he get started in tech? Like, what have been, how hard has it been to keep up with how rapidly this field is changing? Like, those were some of the questions I had, because I really wanted answers, because that's stuff I'm going to be facing as I continue forward in this field. So I was like, maybe he'll give me some knowledge. And he was so kind. So we met up at a local coffee shop, and he had his laptop with him, and he just showed me everything. Like, he's showing me his database, he's showing me all of his code, and just walking through some other ideas that he's got for advancing the software, you know, to make it more accessible to people, and just improve it. And I will say at this point, I'm relatively proficient, and on the front end side, I'm still working through learning back end. And of course, the learning will never stop, by the way. But
Of course. Yeah.
as far as like my skill sets, right? And so he's showing me the front end of stuff, and I was just so excited about this project, mainly just because I thought it was fascinating. And I was really moved just again by his mission and what he's focused on. I thought was so important. I was just like so starstruck, to be honest. Like, I get to sit here and talk to this guy, and he's just showing me everything. And then he was like, well, you know, do you want to be like involved with this? Like, maybe you could do some front end work on a new app that we're doing, you know, and it could be like some good training for you. And he's like, it would be a no pressure. Like, I'm not hired as an employee, just to preface. It's stuff I do on the weekend, but I get to be a part of this project
Awesome.
and take on however much or little as I want. And he's invited me to the stand-ups every week, so I take some time a couple times a week in the morning. And I also on the weekends am able to, he's got some of the smartest developers on his team. I'm so lucky that I get to sit and pair program with these guys, and they're taking the time to just answer questions for me. And like, you know, I don't feel like an inconvenience, and they're so patient and they're so kind. And all of that has come out just from me sending one LinkedIn message and the conversation from that. So this is excellent experience for me on top of my boot camp. And I feel like it's really helping prepare me to be better equipped to actually entering the workforce, because there's stuff that you just don't face in a boot camp. That's just not real life. So yeah.
Yep. And that's fair. Like, that's going to be the case, like, no matter kind of what type of training and education you go through, right? Like, it's not going to be exactly the real world all the time, but, you know, lots of lessons and stuff that are still valuable. But I wanted to add, like, recently I had someone on LinkedIn message me, and they were like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Like, they were like not from here, but they said, I'm going to be near Seattle. Like, would you want to meet up on whatever day? Like, we could go out. It was like basically like a coffee meetup. And I was like, it was a Friday for me. I was like, sure, like, I can go do that. And, you know, again, when they reached out, they didn't say, hey, I need this of you. They were basically saying, like, it would, you know, I'm interested, I'm kind of learning, I'm trying to just get more, you know, exposure to things going on in the industry. And then they didn't start by saying, like, I would like your time, but it came up and they said, like, I'm going to be in the area, would you like to do that? So I was totally cool with that. That's fine. I've had people reach out and, again, not asking something of me, like, I need this from you, but they've volunteered. They said, hey, I'm learning. Do you have something that I could contribute to? They said, I don't want to be paid. I don't care what it is. I want to start having something that I can add value to. And unfortunately for me, I don't have any projects like that right now, but I thought like that's another option where you can say, hey, look, like, and I don't mean to say that your time is not worth money, like you shouldn't be compensated, but
Sure.
truly, if you're just like, I want to try doing stuff, like just getting connected that way can be super valuable. And the last thing I'll say on LinkedIn is my first full-time job. So I worked at a digital forensics company. So when you talk about mission-driven stuff, like I totally hear you on why that feels so good to be able to support that. My first full-time job outside of university was from a Google, like a Gmail spam message. I happened to be looking in my spam folder. I saw a LinkedIn message that was automatically flagged as spam. I
Mhm.
clicked on it and I was like, wait, a human wrote this. It's not like a copy paste, like send it to a million people. And I read it, and it was from the founder of this forensic company. And actually, I found out later it was from their first employee. He got him to send it from his account. But the point is that one message on LinkedIn from someone just reaching out, and I know that I'm changing the dynamics here a little bit, but the power of one message was 8 years of my career. That company went public. I missed that part. They got bought back to private for $2 billion. I missed that part too. But the point is, I got to be part of that journey and have all this impact along the way from one message. So it makes a huge difference.
That's such a great story too. And I will say, like, it sounds so cliche, but just the ability to access people who are decision makers, who are innovators and movers and shakers in this industry, like, is unprecedented. Like, when before have, or even like you and me talking. I'm a boot camp student. You're a principal software engineer at Microsoft, and that's awesome. But here we are having this conversation, and I'm so thankful for it. So I just so strongly encourage people to take advantage of that. And like you said, to do it in the right way, have the right spirit, be a nice person. Like, the internet is complicated and not always very friendly, but it is a powerful tool, and magical things can happen when people do reach out and come together. And that story is such an excellent example of that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've been talking about this for a little bit, but I think it's worth underscoring truly the value of networking because, again, there's so much focus on what technical skills, what's the right programming language, what's the right tech stack. I want to make sure I can get employed, but it's like it's truly a missed opportunity. And Brooke, you said it earlier, for a lot of people, yeah, like it's gonna feel awkward.
Hmm.
I can say that confidently, in my shoes, I would feel super awkward to do it. But literally the worst thing that could happen is someone might say, like, why are you messaging me? And then you
Right.
go, I don't like, or whatever. And more
Sorry.
likely is they just ignore you. That's
Right.
the most likely worst case scenario is they just ignore you. And then so what? Right? Like,
Right.
you might go, oh, that felt kind of bad, but like, okay, there's 100 other people that are equally as awesome that you could reach out to, and having one, like we just said, having one interaction could kind of change the course of things for you. So it's worth doing.
Absolutely. And I will say too, one advantage I do think I've had in my extensive career as a recruiter is time, because I've worked with C-suite professionals in some of the biggest manufacturing companies in the United States. So I will say my people skills have been sharpened by that. I'm able to communicate with people at all levels and speak to engineers about technical things. It took me some time to learn, but I got there. And one thing I will say too, especially when it comes to hiring, like, if, let's say there are three candidates that are very similar on a technical level, right? They're all, speaking from my background, they're all electrical engineers. They all have about 10 to 12 years of experience. They're all in the same price range, right? If it's apples to apples, so to speak, the hiring manager, the hiring authority, whoever's in charge, is going to pick the person that they connected the best with, time and time again. And even sometimes, and I'm not saying like, again, it's all relative because we don't present candidates unless they're qualified. So even
Of
if
course,
there's a range, it's not like any of them are just garbage versus, but even so, like, sometimes there's been a candidate that on a technical level I thought might make a little bit more sense for the job, but they interviewed, John Deere over here, and they had a great conversation, and they appreciated John's sense of initiative and the way he came across as just being very confident and competent and very friendly. You know, people want to work with likable people, even if you have the technical skills and the acumen. And one thing too, teamwork is such a big part of this industry. You are going to be working with people on a team. You have to know how to communicate and know how to do it effectively, you know. And I think too, if you're managing a team, you have to know how to make sure you're giving constructive criticism and feedback versus just being like, hey, this sucks. That's not the way to do it. So those soft skills, as you mentioned, really are just as important. You have to have both. And so that is definitely something that should not be neglected if you're, especially if you are trying to break into this field. That is so important.
Well, thank you for saying all of that, because usually I end up going off on like a rant and I'm like, look, I know the, technical skills are important, but listen up,
Yeah.
like hear it from me, but I didn't have to say it, which is great. I you kind of said all of it. I think it's just so important, but
Mhm.
one of the things that you're getting to realize in your current experience is like you're getting to see some of that, whether that's from the boot camp where you're interacting with other people and getting to see like, hey, we're problem solving together. If you like assume that that's also going to happen at work, you can see the value of that. And now that you're also volunteering your time to help with this other initiative, you're in this position where you're seeing others pair with you to go solve problems. And
Right.
you're not always going to be necessarily paired up and coding together, but you are basically guaranteed that you're going to be having to work with other software engineers communicating things. There's going to be other stakeholders you have to work with. So
Mhm.
I just think that like, yeah, it's really cool that you've been able to see like this is going to be helpful. And the one other part I wanted to mention about this that we kind of, this is from earlier in the conversation, we talked about this, from maybe other people's standards or whatever, maybe this is a little bit later in someone's career journey to switch over, but it's like, it's very doable. I was talking Brian Jenny, I think it was got to be a couple months back now on the other podcast I have. He was telling us like a huge career change, like a huge life change for him, and he's like kind of saw code and was like, I'm doing this. And it's never too late. It's
Right.
never too late. And often what's super cool about this is you have all of these other skills that you have built up, like being able to communicate, which is critical, and you can go apply those into software engineering. So I think as long as you have a foundation of your problem solving and an interest in that, having these other skills can be such a huge improvement and benefit as a software engineer. So it's like, it's not like it's too late, and actually you might have some ridiculously good advantages over some other people because of your other experiences. So
Sure. I completely agree. Like you said, I don't feel, well, first of all, I really have enjoyed my career as a recruiter. I'm not downplaying that at all, like I said, but I just feel like I've found what has actually just been a very real passion for me with software development. And I'm so glad that that happened. So none of it has been time wasted. And along the lines of what you're saying, I realized that I did have some soft advantages because of the people skills that I've had to develop and ability to um, com- converse with people at all levels and reach out, and the importance of building a reputation too. So it's led to some really amazing conversations.
that's super cool. Maybe for wrapping things up, if you had to give someone the like, what's your best advice for someone they're saying, I'm thinking about starting off on my software engineering journey? And sorry, I am putting you on the spot. So I'll keep rambling a little bit to kind of preface the question. You can start thinking about it, because that's not really fair of me. But your best advice to someone who's like, I want to get into software engineering, I don't really know where to start. They might be saying things like, should I be going to school, like whether that's college, university? Should I do a boot camp? Should I just forget that stuff and go like, total self-taught path? What are your thoughts on like, what would be your advice that you could give someone now from your experience so far?
Right. So that's an excellent question. I will say this is kind of a multifaceted answer, but there are so many ways to enter this field and be successful. I do
Absolutely.
think that there is value in getting a computer science degree. I chose the boot camp route. But I honestly do think that, a degree has merit. It's not the route that I went. And I also have personally met and engaged with some unbelievably successful self-taught developers too. You don't have to have, and of course I will say too, on an international level, in some parts of the world, a degree really is a lot more make or break versus like here in the United States. So that's relative, but I'm mainly sort of addressing the United States audience and how the culture shifted too. And also I do think this field has become a lot more welcoming to self-taught and boot camp students. I really do, because I think people, especially hiring managers who understand that you either do know how to have these technical skills or you don't. I mean, there really is no in between. Either you can code out in this language or solve this problem, or you can't, and that's part of course, the technical interview process, which is great. So I would say, pick a language and stick with it. Learn the fundamentals, whatever that looks like for you. There's so many resources online. I also want to shout out Free Code Camp. Love Quincy Larson. He's like my personal hero. I love that he's trying to make access to learning software development equitable for everybody. Like, he's amazing. But that's an excellent resource. There are so many YouTube tutorials out there. You don't have to pay for a boot camp. You don't have to go to school. But if you do, power to you. I think that there's benefit of it. But stay consistent. Like I said, learn the fundamentals. Don't overload yourself. That was something I was overwhelmed with when I was on my own pace, is like, there's so much out there. I didn't know outside of HTML and CSS. I knew that was where I was like, okay, we'll start there, and that's great. But after that, I was like, okay, now Python, JavaScript, Java, C, what do I do? Pick one. Just pick one. Seriously. People do, especially to the whole LinkedIn tech community, which I genuinely love, but I love when people actually just get into what language is better. And I'm like, guys, okay.
I posted about that the other day. I tried to make a joke, and because I've seen other people do it. Yeah, and I was like, haha, yeah, like, there is no difference, or like there is no better language except if, C# is better. Because, like, my audience is primarily C# developers, but it's true. Like, there is no best universal language. And to add into what you said from earlier, you had said that you are the type of person that will get analysis paralysis. So what's better, to sit there for days, weeks, months and go, I don't know which language to pick because I can't pick the best one? Or do you just start learning it, start trying things, start building some experiences, and you either go, hey, this is pretty cool, or hey, this sucks, or now I'm curious about something else. Like, you at least were doing something.
Right. And along the lines of that point too, I know we're wrapping up, but like, I had this conversation again with Rob yesterday during a stand-up, and I'm tackling some bits of front-end stuff on this app that we're building, and I still find myself afraid to touch the code because, again, the developers on this team are all very seasoned. Some of them have worked in big tech, and just they know what they're doing is basically what I'm saying. And here I am, hey guys, I'm happy to be here, and I really am, but I've also just been terrified. And I literally made a post about this, but I said, oh, I'll probably break everything, and I was kind of joking because we all get along great, but both Rob and Joe, one of the other developers, is like, just break it. Just do it. Like, just get in there, mess around. Like, there's nothing that you're going to do that we can't fix, which I'm like, and that was so motivating to me and just made me feel so much better because I am learning. It's okay. I don't know everything at this point. Not that anybody does, but I'm still expanding my own skill set. But that is really good advice, like, especially for someone with my personality. And if it's not perfect, I want to throw it away. It's like, it's okay if it's messy and ugly and a little sloppy at first. You got to get better over time, but get in there and build something. Just make it render on the browser and you'll figure it out. But you got to get your hands dirty along the way. And that took me a little bit of a mindset shift to get into, but I am getting there. But that is very valuable advice, especially for someone like me.
That's super cool. It sounds like they've definitely given you like what I would call like a safe place to fail, which I think is critical for learning, for growth, innovation in general. So that's super cool. But so Brooke, you're on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for people to reach out to you? Like, is LinkedIn, do you have anything else? Your GitHub? Do you want to shout out any place where people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you want to check out my GitHub, my username is SweedarBK. and my LinkedIn is Brooke Sweedar. I'm not really very active on other socials. I really have not been a big social media person until I started being like, all right, we're going to build a brand on LinkedIn. So yeah, absolutely. You're welcome to connect with me there. I also will say, since growing, I'm now getting messages of people talking about their stories, whether they're bootcamp students or wanting to break into tech. I really love those conversations. So send me those messages. I would love to connect with people, honestly, because it was transformative for me. And you're not alone. There are so many resources. And I do think that it is important in tech to stick together, build a community, and support each other, especially in this difficult market. Like, these relationships matter. And I really do believe that, when we help others, we collectively rise up together. That I'm a huge believer in that as well.
I fully agree. So I'll make sure to get links from you. I know your LinkedIn, your GitHub. I'll double check with you, and I'll put that in the comments and the description of this video. And you're sure you don't want to shout up your YouTube gaming channel from before? Is that
Do not look up my
no?
YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I gotta go.
Okay. We'll park that one for now. But when you decide to finally revive it, let me know.
Okay.
No, cool. This is really good. Thank you so much for sharing. And for folks watching, yeah, please reach out to Brooke. You can leave comments below and stuff if you're going through boot camps and you have interesting experiences. I was telling Brooke, like, I really wanted to hear about her experiences with boot camps because I don't get that much exposure and it's kind of one-sided for me. So, Brooke, thank you so much once again.